back when I used to own an old IBM computer with Windows 95 on it, I had purchased a game called Frogger. It was an updated take on the old arcade game. You know the one. You maneuver a small little frog across a busy highway and river, avoiding traffic and not drowning. It was a game made in simpler times, where a quarter entertained you for a while and high scores were the only thing you were gunning for. Screw achievements, stories, and level 100 Mewtwo's. Again, this was an old game, and I really enjoyed it on the Windows 95 machine, so imagine my joy when shopping at a local game store and seeing this on the shelf for PlayStation. I bought that shit up quickly. I mean, Frogger, a game I used to enjoy a lot as a wee little child, for a mere $2.99? Hells to the yes! And I'm not joking, I really only paid $3 for it. See? So the premise of the game is very similar to its parent title. You still play as the frog, trying to save its little froggies. The first level, titled Retro, is just like a graphical overhaul of the arcade classic. But if you choose to play any of the other levels, you'll notice that it's the same concept, but the levels and hazards are vastly enlarged. No longer are you just contending with water and traffic here, but now you add in hungry dogs, bloodthirsty bats, and poisonous bees. And don't forget about the timer. From the start of the game, you get your choice between 4 worlds. Each world has several levels in them. For example, the Retro stage has 5 possible levels to choose from. The forest level has 2 options. The caverns give you 3 possible stages. In order to unlock the subsequent stages, you just need to complete the stage before it. So in order to unlock part 2 of a level, you just need to find all 5 frogs in part 1. In fact, finding your small buddies is the goal of each level. You start in the same spot each round, and if you die or find a frog, you reset back to the starting point and must find the next frog. Frogs can typically be found in any order, so you can choose to go for the easy or hard ones first, depending on how comfortable with the stage you are. Regardless of which option you go with, this game is far from easy. It is a puzzle game after all. The controls in Frogger are very easy to learn. You use the directional pad to make Frogger hop in the appropriate direction. Square uses the tongue, which is what you use to nab the power-up flies. X is a super hop, which allows Frogger to reach slightly higher platforms. Circle is the croak, which doubles as a way to see how close the baby froggies are, and also have a bit of light in the cavern stages. Why would you use the croak to find the babies? Well, when they hear you, they'll respond with a croak of their own. So if you can gauge where the response came from, you can determine in which direction and how close they are. You can also use the L2 and R2 to rotate the camera 90 degrees, which you'll need quite a bit to more accurately gauge the dangers of the world. You may notice that a lot of the stages are grayed out. This is because you only get access to the first 4 worlds at the start of the game. So how do you unlock the later ones? Simple, the golden frogs. In some stages you may find a gold frog. If you can grab this frog and then bring it to a baby, it'll act as the key to unlock the next world. It's a very simple system, and one that will make you be on the lookout for them. So what's your biggest threat to the game? Well, believe it or not, it's not the hazards themselves. Sure, they do pose a threat, but the biggest enemy in the game is that little timer down the bottom center of the screen. It drains quicker than you'd think, and your heart will skip a beat when you hear that emergency countdown sound. It's like, aw shit, I better hurry and find a baby. Then again, the power-ups do help. They come in several different types. Many are there strictly for points, but others are some extra lives and also ones that add to your timer. There's even some that slow down the timer for a little bit. However, I do need to mention that there are also some consumable insects that aren't so helpful. Some of them just take away points, and others make your timer drop quicker or even just flat out take away time. If you can remember which variations of insect do what, you'll be able to avoid the negative ones. Overall, the game is incredibly addictive and fun, but there are a few negative points that may push this game away from potential players. For one, the camera often feels like it's zoomed in too far, with no way to back it up. Many times it may feel like there's only 3 or 4 hop perimeter around Frogger. A zoom out would have been nice at times, even if you couldn't move when you were zoomed out. Secondly, there are a lot of questionable deaths. I really can't fault the traffic, even though a lot of times it felt like there was some sketchy hit detection. But what about the times I tried to leap on a turtle's back and fell right through the cracks? Come on, that's bull. The game's difficulty is also very blunt. The retro levels aren't so bad, but once you graduate for those, you're at the mercy of the game. You will see the game over screen a lot, and there's not going to be much you can do about it. You're just going to have to play with some good old-fashioned trial and error before you really start getting far. There's also no autosave, so if you make considerable progress, be sure to manually go into the options and save your game. If you don't, well, you're a bit out of luck when you turn the game back on. I will say that one of the best points about the game is the sound, or more accurately, the music tracks. Everything from the opening video to the music in the levels themselves is catchy and will stick around your head for a few hours after you shut the PlayStation off. Don't say I didn't warn you. In closing, I loved Frogger as a kid, and I still love it now. I'm not huge into puzzle games, but this one passes in my book. It's fun, it's addictive, and I still enjoy playing it now and again. Sadly, when I was doing this review, I couldn't get far enough to show you the later stages of the game, which are brutal in the challenge department. But I will say that maybe one day in the future I'll record a talk through if I can get far enough. I guess another problem is that when I replaced my PS3 I lost the data I had on the old one, so that probably had something to do with it as well. Rage, you know. In any case, Frogger is a recommended game in anyone's library, especially if you enjoy the puzzle genre. And one final tidbit of useless trivia. Frogger was the last game ever released in North America for the SNES. At least, that's what I've heard and read. It may be true, it may not. It is the internet after all. Final score? 8 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.